Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. A warm and fabulous welcome to everybody. My name is Lwando Scott, and this is Chatty Queens, the show that gives you a taste of real kitchen talk. In this show, we will be focusing on the social and political landscape of South Africa. We will be bringing you different guests to talk about fashion, to talk about culture, to talk about wine, to talk about food, maybe even a little bit of travel.
If we do get to travel.
Yes. We love all things queer, don't we, Yaya?
We certainly do. Cheers, babe.
Cheers.
My name is Ayanda Hute. I am well known as Yaya. I prefer to kind of do this more often and just sitting and chilling at home. Now, this show to me means a lot. It means that it's about representation that we never really grew up seeing on TV. It is about discussions of things that are endeared to our hearts, which is the fashion, the food, and all the things that you've mentioned. And also it's a space whereby we can talk about issues that we have within our community as gay people. There's the inner homophobia that we have amongst ourselves. There's homophobia around in our workspace and our families. There's transphobia within the world actually in general. There's so much ugliness. But now we are hoping that we would have conversations and tangible solutions if there are any, right? And then we can actually just have a space whereby it will be home for queer people in general.
Absolutely.
But most importantly, we're gonna have to look fabulous doing it. So, right, cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Chatty Queens.
Yeah, Chatty Queens.
On today's show, we're talking about this crazy world that we've inherited. We're living under lockdown. We have an alcohol ban there for a while. We even had a cigarette ban, which I know a lot of people were not happy about.
Yep.
I mean, a couple of months ago, I wasn't talking about PPEs, but now I can tell you everything about PPEs.
What's PPEs again?
PPEs is the personal protective equipment that doctors and nurses often wear when they're dealing with COVID-19 patients.
Oh, is that the one that Naomi Campbell wore at the airport?
Yes, exactly, that one, yeah. And you remember she was like sanitizing the whole plane when she was inside.
Yeah, and we ridiculed her.
Yeah, everybody thought she was a bit nuts, yeah. But she was onto something.
Right, she was ahead of time. For me, it is that we get to see pandemic in different lenses and the world in general. Right? And today's show, we're going to have people that will come to tell their testimony and their stories of how they managed to make the possible out of the impossible and becoming creative despite of these hard times. But before that, friend, I just want to check in with you. How are you mentally and wise? Because lockdown it comes with a whole lot of emotional cha-cha or trauma.
Yes.
We get to be in ourselves and you know, being single is quite different from being married. And
well, I wouldn't want to call it marriage. I would say long-term relationship maybe.
So fat and sad.
Well, yes, fat and sad is how some of us are doing it. But you know, Yaya, I think that you know, it is a bit different from people who are in relationships. I think people who are married, it is a bit different because at least you have somebody there. But I also do think that you are affected because here was someone who used to go to work and all of a sudden you're all locked down in one house and you have to deal with each other. In fact, you can't miss your partner anymore because you're all right there. So I think that even if you're in a relationship or you're married or you have a fat and sad situation, you're being affected by the virus.
So
in the
sex
lockdown.
is bomb.
Well, I don't know if it's bomb, but
for me, being single is quite, it comes with a whole different structure, right? Because you're now lonely and you have to think about everything, you know, during, including the COVID-19, family members, depending if you are actually staying alone or you're staying with friends or you're staying with family. But it actually comes a whole lot. You think about those exes that what could have happened.
I was going to say, like, I mean, there are apps, you know, that people can use, but I would imagine that it's pretty scary to meet anybody because, like, are you going to make out with someone?
Well, honey, we could use our own PPEs, but that is a different show. Let's get to our first guest then. Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. Our next guest is Cait Pansegrouw. She is a multi-talented casting director and producer. She has worked all over South Africa, in Brazil, and also in Lesotho. Her work has traveled to International Film Festival, Berlinale, Sundance, Venice, and also to the Durban Film Festival. Welcome, Cait, to this wonderful show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chomi.
Yay!
Chatty
Cheers.
Queens.
Oh, well, cheers. Finally, you get to see our show.
So fun.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm so happy that we get to actually all meet and be in the space where you can just be yourself. Well,
Also just to see people IRL, right? In the
Right.
times of COVID.
right.
Yeah.
How has that have been though for you? Because it's been very hectic for all of us, and we've mentioned, Lwando and I, like how COVID-19 has been taxing our emotions and also our coins.
Totally.
And then in your industry, it must be a bit.
Yeah,
hectic.
I mean, I'm extremely fortunate that in my case, this was never going to be a year where I had anything ready to shoot. So it was always going to be a development heavy year, so lots of writing. It has been complicated on the financing side because no one wants to part with their coins, as we all know. But we also been focusing a lot more on our institutional work through the Realness Institute. So we did the 5th iteration of our Pan-African Screenwriters Lab, which we've just finished.
Look at you!
Thank
Cheers!
you.
Well, shall we drink to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also launched the first ever Creative Producers in Daba program, which is also a Pan-African program. So yeah, lots on the go, really exciting. Got a film traveling to festivals. I'm releasing another film next month. This is not a burial, it's a resurrection. It's my Mary Twyler's last film. God rest her soul. So I'd like to pay tribute to her and say cheers to Mary.
Cheers to Mary.
She's one of the most formidable, amazing, talented, beautiful women I've ever had the pleasure of knowing, and she's astounding in our film. It opened the Durban Film Festival last week, so I'm just really excited that local audiences are getting to experience the film, and to date, since launching in Sundance in January, we've taken home 9 international awards.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So 20 plenty for you, a lot.
20 plenty, yeah.
So we also know that aside from that movie, there's an iconic Inaiba. Right?
Yeah.
And then that movie caused a whole lot of stir and a whole lot of
It
conversation.
did.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of it. Yeah.
So for me, it was, again, as I'm saying, this platform is a space where we can talk about sexuality, advanced black queer land.
Yeah.
And that is one conversation that we had to talk about.
Yeah.
Firstly, as a white woman in that show, in that movie, I'm sorry, how was the backlash and how did you cope and what did you do to prepare for the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think myself and my business partner, who are both white, and further adding to the complexity, my business partner is not even South African, he's Brazilian. And John Trengrove, who wrote and directed the film, is white as well. And we were all very much aware of our whiteness all the way through the making of the film. I think what was most frustrating is that people conveniently forget at times of controversy that film is a collaborative art form. And this was a film that was co-written by 2 Xhosa men who've both been to the mountain. It's based on a novel written by a Xhosa man. And our entire cast, there was a rule that everyone in our cast, which was an ensemble of almost 200 people, all had to be Xhosa, all had to have gone to the mountain. This, for me, why I got involved is because I'm an intersectional feminist, and this was a film that was really giving the finger to the patriarchy in a really potent way, and so that's why I felt like, regardless of what role I was going to end up having on the film, I just needed to be a part of it. I saw it being pitched as a project at the Durban Film Mart 6-7 years ago, and approached John immediately and said, look, whatever you need, this film needs to exist, and I'm happy to collaborate in any way, shape or form. And so I initially came onto the project as the casting director, which was pretty complex because most known actors wanted nothing to do with the film because of how controversial it was.
Even at that stage?
Even at that stage. We were already getting threats at the development stage, people finding the synopsis online or whatever and already getting really aggressive about it. So the casting was a long, tedious process because we needed to find people that not only were okay to be in front of camera, but who were also fully on board with what we were saying with the film and what we wanted it to achieve. So that took almost 2 years for me to find these people. And then I stayed on board the project and became one of the producers on it, and that was kind of how the marriage between myself and my business partner happened, was on that film. So yeah, it was a very beautiful, meaningful experience, like in all aspects of my life. The cast really became like my family. I'm still very blessed to be very close to a number of them.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. How close are you guys?
We are. Nakane and I speak all the time. Niza J and I speak all the time. Bungile and I speak all the time. Like, they're my babies. I love them so much.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. It was interesting how people kind of narrowed in on the sex scenes for the film.
Yeah.
That was like the one gripe that people had.
Well, totally, because the whole controversy was actually about homophobia. It had nothing to do with the ritual, in my humble opinion.
Do you have
Huh?
opinions?
In my opinion, let me correct myself. No, it's, I mean, the sex scenes, if you look at them clinically, are not even explicit. You don't see a penis, you don't see, like...
There's so much else going on.
Totally,
right?
totally. So, no, it was definitely an interesting experience. It was really fucked up to be on the receiving end of people not only sending death threats, but like really detailed threats of rape, of necklacing me, and people coming to my house. A lot of people knew where I lived and sort of loitering outside my house waiting to harm me. It was, and for my cast as well, you know, I'll never forget, someone was out in Melville and they heard a car backfiring and called me and said, I think someone's trying to shoot at me. Like the anxiety and the trauma that we all experienced, and I think the cast more than anyone else, because they were so visible to everyone, it was horrendous, and it really lifted a veil on our society, on our police force, on our legal system, on our justice system. It was kind of a very rude awakening for me in those spaces, because I met the most incredible activists through the process of, you know, taking legal action to have the film unbanned, and it was traumatic, and praise God for my therapist, but it was also like really empowering, because it made me learn so much about myself and what is important to me as a storyteller, you know. So I'm forever thankful to the process for that reason.
So it didn't ruin your career?
Not at all.
Yeah.
If nothing else, people know not to fax with me, and that's you know, always a good thing. Always a good thing to have. Eh?
Also, obviously, we went to see the movie. We got, because we know Cait, right, from first hand. She's queer crazy. Okay. Yeah. But we get to see the movie, and for us, we had to review moments, me and Lwando and Tiana and all our friends. We get to say that, you know what, it's crazy how this whole thing has been taken out of context, in the sense that people do not even have to watch the movie to have opinions about it, and also get to miss what the movie is about, which is like a love story and the things that we actually need as society as well. So kudos to you for being that brave.
Thank you.
And also for being the pillar of strength, because now we need more people like you.
Thank you.
And yes, we could use black people to be more strength. Okay. Here we are. In whatever ways that takes us, that's what we will do.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, it's like you were saying, right, about the kind of what takes over the film really is the homophobia, and not necessarily, you know, sitting down and pinpointing, okay, we don't like this, we don't like that. Why did you do this instead of that? Right? It is just like this outright ban, right, on the film.
And watered down conversation around something that is so deeply complex, you know, which was really frustrating as us as the filmmakers, wanting to spark really meaningful discussions amongst people, but just constantly having to talk about the so-called explicitness of the sex scenes. But you know, and I think the film is so special because it what it stood for became much larger than the film. I mean, essentially, we were really fighting for our freedom of expression as artists, but I think we were also fighting against the erasure of black queer bodies in this country.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so the awards are great, 28 awards. But it's really about
Humble.
yes.
but it's really about like the conversations that we started and the black queer youth reaching out to us and saying thank you for telling my story, thank you for putting us on screen. You know, that's what filmmaking is about for me.
Absolutely. I mean, not to plug myself, but I've written 2 academic pieces.
I know, girl. I know.
So it's done the rounds.
It has.
It's done some great work in terms of facilitating the conversation.
At Harvard, at Cambridge, it really has, you know, it's become such a huge thing. And I think, this conversation around censorship and around preventing people from accessing art or media or whatever, a small faction of society in this day and age still being able to control what we have access to and what we're allowed to say and how we're allowed to say it, is we should all be deeply concerned about that. And so I'm really feel fortunate that our work has been, you know, stirring up that conversation, which I think is long overdue and which is something that needs to continue, a conversation that needs to continue.
Well, babes, thank you so much for coming around. Right?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
So lovely to chat with you.
I'm very proud of you queens for the
Thank
show,
you.
and I wish you all the success.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's such an important space that you're occupying, so thank you.
Today we do have scalcop. It's very nice, served on La Creuset, flag owned. So, so you guys,
Cut the tongue.
yeah, it's my favorite part. So you guys, you want to double in?
Get it, girl.
Yeah, you have it all.
Looks delicious, doesn't it?
Cheers, girl. Cheers.
You're welcome back anytime.
Of course,
Dorian,
you gotta
careful
hold.
what you wish for. Yeah. They have champagne.
Gotta hold, yeah. Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. Now that I'm done juicing for our guest, Yaya, do you mind introducing our guest?
Thank you, Lwando, for that. Vitamin C, we all need it.
Yes.
And as you can see, in honor for our new guest, we've decided to zhuzh things up and change our outfits a bit because we're talking about fashion, darling. Yeah, all right. And our new guest, his name is Mkhululi Dukuza. He's from East London. He's also known as MK. MK started his designing career as just sewing clothes in the township. He has worked in many projects like The World, in 80 Days, Troy, Fall of City, Raised by Wolves, and the list goes on. Mkhululi, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So COVID-19 hit us all, like really the rug has been pulled at our feet. How do you coping?
Well, it was difficult at first because I mean it's the first time ever in the world that something like this has ever happened. I mean there's been pandemics, but they've always been localized. But this is the first time something has hit the entire world. So, but I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Right.
I always, you know, there's always that ray of sunshine that I look for. So during the lockdown, I managed to read books that I never got around to reading.
Oh, wow.
You know, that's actually how I took it, that it is actually time to enrich oneself. You know, it was scary at the beginning, obviously, because you sit at home and you like wonder, when is it going to end?
Yeah.
You know, do I have enough reserves?
If this is the end.
You know? Yeah. But you always wonder because, I mean, it was indefinite. You don't know how long it's going to go on for.
Yeah, there was that.
So earlier on, Lwando and I spoke about obviously, as you said now, just to add a bit more, that you get to be in your thoughts, and that drives you up the wall because you worry about your coins, and you guys know that you need people, you need those production companies to be happening. So how worried were you about that in particular?
I was quite, because generally as freelancers in film, well, in the creative industry, we are not the most frugal of people when we have money. We tend to go quite crazy with the spending and stuff. So, and this came unexpected, you know, but at least this year, for some odd reason, I had managed. you know,
Yeah.
to put, you know, money aside.
Got your shit together. Okay.
Yep.
But in terms of this market that just emerged from nowhere, well, obviously because we needed to be safe, the mask market, did you capitalize on?
No.
How come?
That was nice. I was like, boom, no.
You know, there was already a lot of people in that. Okay. You know, I suppose I did make masks for safety, not for money. Because I started giving them away because I had a lot of cloth and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I decided to just run them up. And until, you know, then a lot of people started making them anyway. Yeah.
Are we getting some?
What?
Masks.
Some masks?
With like
maybe.
lace and some
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay.
Why not?
Yes, I want rhinestones. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. So about your industry, you had a very interesting journey when you started out. Do you want to elaborate more? How did you started out in fashion and then ended up in being in movies?
By accident.
Oh, wow.
I used to hate fashion. I used to never understand why people go to somebody to have something made when there are stores. I mean, you can just walk into Edgar's and...
well, that's no more now.
Yeah. You know, and because my grandmother used to sew, and I never used to understand the fuss, like, why are people coming to this woman instead of going to the shop? But then like, as you know, I first went and did a year of BCom, then that was not a good idea. Then I did engineering, and also not such a great idea. Then went overseas, I went to Dubai. That's when I fell in love with fashion.
Oh, wow.
Because it was
Dubai?
Yeah, it was on a different standard. I didn't even know, because I hadn't been following fashion, so I didn't even know there was a market for such clothes.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I was like, I'm definitely going to study fashion. So yeah, that's what happened.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens.
Interesting, because
I mean, the first two are like totally not creative, and then you went like 180 degrees on the creative side.
But also it's interesting that, I mean, along with anything that we embark on, there's a little bit of love that we must have for it. So it's quite interesting that you did not actually like it at all. And who doesn't like fashion? You know, but anyway.
Well, I suppose often the people who are making the stuff, right, are not necessarily the people who are wearing the stuff, right? So obviously, you know, people who make the stuff, you know, there are people who make the stuff. Anyway, but what do you think is cool and kind of amazing right now in the fashion world, particularly here in South Africa? Do you have like an opinion about
what is cool currently?
Yeah, like for you, what do you think?
Well, I'm not really into fast fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm that guy. I'm not into trends. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the color of the season is. Because I'm not, you know, I don't follow that with, that side of fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm more into very, very high fashion, which is not subject to that.
Right.
Okay.
And also costume, obviously, now. Yeah. So which is an entirely different field.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not influenced by color, trends, form, and whatever is happening.
And then the future, do you see, I mean, particularly now, I mean, thinking what COVID-19 is doing and will potentially, the kind of effects it will have in the future of fashion?
Of fashion?
Yeah.
I think from what I've noticed, like the overseas shows that I follow, it's either people are on opposite, extremes. It's either they're very frugal in the way in which they express themselves, like they're very, very basic.
Yeah.
They don't want to be excessive. It's almost like they want to be sensitive to what's going on in the world.
I see.
And on the other end of the spectrum, they're incredibly excessive. It's like they have all the time in the world.
Yeah, and then you can embellish, right?
Yes.
You can...
Like, like very, like the craft. And the clothes are very artisanal. So like places like Italy and in Paris, like haute couture and stuff is either very, very over embellished or very minimal. Yeah.
So we're living in extremes.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we're living in extremes.
Yeah, I wanted to just poke a bit about that, what Lwando asked in terms of what you think is trending at the moment. I just want, as you said that you are more into high fashion. Is there anyone particular that pops up in mind that who's actually doing that at the moment, whether local or anywhere?
Who is
doing like high fashion and is actually inspired, or that you like, seeing his work or her work? No.
It's like, I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm endorsing no one.
Okay, well, that's fine. We can have that choice.
It's like, I want to check first.
Okay.
Sign on the dotted line.
Well, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for being here. It's been really great seeing you and watching you grow and becoming this person that you are today.
Yeah.
And being able to survive COVID-19 and still manage to have yourself and your senses. And it actually shows that we're not really we're not, I don't know, conquered by our circumstances. We can actually conquer them. Yeah.
No, totally. Now, before we wrap up, do you have something that you're working on particularly right now that is interesting, that we should look out for? Are you working on a production or?
Yes, I am on a project right now. However, on my private life, because I get bored quite easily with things. As much as I'm a creative, it's like I'm in film now.
Yes.
I was in BCom engineering.
Yes, we heard.
Fashion, film. Now I want to go into fashion instruction. I'm working on...
So you want to teach fashion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm working on a tool that's going to allow you people who've never done fashion to be able to cut all manner of garments. In fact, it's done.
Oh, wow.
It's in the patenting process now. So that because...
I'm down. I'm down. I have a banana at home, but I can't use it. So this will be great.
No, definitely. Because it also was inspired by this pandemic that a lot of people can't attend college.
That's true, yeah. You can't physically be there.
You can't physically be there. So that is what inspired me to create this thing, that you can use it anywhere you are.
That's fantastic.
See, this is what this show is about. It's about actually having tangible solutions as well to things. But honey, I am not about that manual labor. So I'll let you So thank you.
No, but I mean, but there's something wonderful about being creative. I think that the response that we all kind of need with this is to be creative, right? In terms of not only, yes, of course, you work in fashion and that is a creative industry in itself, but I think in all our fields, COVID-19 is forcing us to think creatively in terms of solving.
Reconstruct.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for being here. This was wonderful.
It was a pleasure.
And feel free to pop in again.
Should I juice again? I'm in a mood.
I need something. Thank you. Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens.
Recently, it was one of the very first times we went out because it was Lwando's birthday. She is old. It was quite interesting because it was one of the very first time that we actually went out in public in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Although Lwando has been very paranoid, you were on lockdown before lockdown.
Yes. No. I was freaked out by this before people latched on. So by the time that the president announced that he was locking down, I was already staying at home. So when it was time to get out, I was quite freaked out about, how do you do this? How do you navigate this world now that we have of sanitizing, of masks, of social distancing? And and how do you do that when you go out to a space of clubbing or dancing or,
Yeah. So you do admit that you're paranoid because
careful. I think that's the really word you're looking for here. Very, very careful.
Closely. But I think for me, it was, for the most part, we were having fun. Yeah. But then the thing is that we have to be extra careful of what we do. I remember a friend of mine, when he told me about the idea that we must just surprise you and do something, I was like, okay, so before you leave your home, then you have to worry about your mask. Does it match your outfit?
Yeah.
Do you have to carry an extra sanitizer?
Yeah.
Do you have to do this? How is it going to be? And then all those conversations that you have. But I suppose that's how our new normal is now. Yeah. Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. Our next guest is none other than Babalwa Carol Chiselwa. She is an award-winning makeup and hair designer. She has not one, not two, 3 Golden Horn Awards for her work. I'm telling you, no jokes here. Huh? Right? You actually have it in Golden Horns.
Yeah.
Babalwa also has 3 SAFTA awards, 2 for Lockdown, and 1 for Knuckle City. She's also been involved in other productions like Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom, 5 Fingers, Trackers, and Roots. Welcome to the show, Babalwa. It's very lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers. Like, I just want to say, firstly, babes, congratulations. Like, really, you are an inspiration to all of us, right? And it shows that hard work, and I mean, you must have not just got landed where you are. And it's determination that you have that shows that, you know, a strong person, work ethic gets you here. Thank you for being that person.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So with this year, being an old mess, how are you doing? How's your mental space?
Oh yeah, this year has been something else here.
Right.
I mean, it started off really well, with like really cool projects, and then obviously we all had to stop. And then I kept positive. I hear you were quite paranoid. I was with you.
I was incredibly
I was with you.
Yeah.
I also went into lockdown a week before lockdown. Yeah, it's been very crazy, but I tried to keep like as positive as possible until I just really couldn't, because I think we all started at a point where we were expecting it to be 21 days.
Yeah.
I did feel like that was a lie though. Because I was also watching like I was also watching like the stats.
Yeah.
And Italy was like the most affected at the time, and I was like, we can't act like we're not going there. We have to like think towards that.
Yeah.
Did you think Chatty Queens?
Chatty Queens.
You mentioned something about your projects lined up earlier on. Were you working on something this year?
Yes, I was. Funny enough, I hadn't started designing in any jobs this year. At the time, I did. I worked on a film called Escape Room, where I was doing the lead actress. Taylor is her name. Russell is her surname. Yes,
Okay.
Taylor Russell. Which is pretty cool. I joined in sort of like 3/4 of the way of the job because she needed a black makeup artist.
Okay.
As it happens.
Anyways, and then after that, the same situation happened on a TV series called, a BBC TV series called The Watch, which hasn't come out yet. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I mean, oh, actually I am, because I've started posting stuff. That's cool.
Okay.
So then I was called onto that to do basically the same thing on a different person, and that's when that was supposed to finish on the 27th of March, and then it was obviously stopped 2 weeks before we actually finished shooting.
Yeah.
And then it was sit down.
Yeah. But otherwise, how much impact has on your coins? Yeah.
Yeah, it hit me hard.
Yeah.
At first I was very positive about it, and I was just like, okay, like prepare yourself, research so that you know, and save and spend wisely, because this amount of money needs to last you like 3 months now. Okay, cool, I'm good. Until it went like over and above that.
Are you able to be creative in terms of your aesthetic and what you do with your work?
Not really, because I was like, finally I can watch some series. I can
What's
catch
your
up
work?
with some shows.
Yes.
No, not my work. I just like, I never have time to watch stuff, and because I'm just constantly making, you know.
Okay.
So it was a nice time for me just to catch up on what's going on out there, because it's important for me to like keep myself updated in terms of like what other people are doing, what other makeup artists are doing, like what bigger shows are doing, how they're telling stories through makeup, etc. So like I never get a chance to do that, which really like sucks. But so that's the first thing I did, and it was also just nice to just be home and bond with family.
Another thing that I wanted to ask you, most importantly for me as someone that, well, we got beat today, right? So I think, do you like this first?
I do.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I saw.
Okay. I want to ask, like, it always seems vague to other people when it comes to makeup. And it seems like a not real career, right? So especially within the black community, like our parents are gonna be like, can you please get to school?
A real job.
Yeah, can you go to school and get a proper job? Like, or even if you say you do communication, like you're learning how to talk.
Yeah.
So how much can you say that your skill is needed in community and within us as black people in general?
Well, first of all, like I totally went through that. Like my family literally kept sitting me down to say, don't do this.
Wow. Yeah.
This is because I never actually studied for makeup. Like I wanted to do music, and they were like, "No, you need a real career. We're gonna just pay for your studies, so go study something that to fall back on." You know that story. So I studied HR management. Right.
I know where you.
I don't mean to laugh.
Actually, I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. The
Yeah.
second year was a bit tough, but because I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
But I really did enjoy it, and I'm glad that I did it because it taught me a lot about like personnel management, and like the admin behind being a leader and running a team and managing people. So
Right.
I'm really glad I did it because it taught me so much.
And emotional intelligence.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we did so much on training people, coming up with training plans, personnel management,
Yeah.
labor law. Like there was a lot that actually helps me so much right now in terms of how to lead the team. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you were able to use that, like
Yeah.
the transfer of skill, if you want, right? Yeah,
I
that's
do
really,
believe
really
that.
something.
I believe everything happens for a reason. And
Yeah.
I had to see what the lesson was in that, and I had to take from it because otherwise it was going to be a complete loss.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting though, this thing with, I mean, you know, particularly black families and that it still continues. I suppose it's also just within the creative industry in general. It's a hard sell,
Yeah,
right, for
absolutely.
black parents. It's a very, very hard sell to want to be in creative industry.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens.
But like, I'm just grateful that like my training was really, really, really good. I was trained by all of or most of the strong makeup artists
Yeah.
in the country. You
Yeah.
know? So I learned a lot from different people. So I learned different ways to do things, and I collected all of these like tricks and ways to just accomplish things. So I was trained in every skin type.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
But I always focused like harder on and I always say to people it's harder to do makeup on black skin, even if you're a black makeup artist, because there's so much more to understand.
Yeah.
But most people, or many people I'd say, just don't really take the time. Like they undermine how difficult it is, and they just go for it. And it's very easy to make it not work. And then you're sitting with an unhappy actor or model. Which
Or you're sitting with a film where we are like, oh, this one.
that too.
Yeah, it's a situation.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know how your diet is, guys, but
Oh,
know,
you want to have
it's
a
fabulous,
magui, yeah?
magui. But
Well,
you want
she
some,
can-
you can help yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I'll have one, but I'm allowed chewers. Just excuse me.
okay, sure.
I'll
So-
also take one, but I'll just put it on my plate.
The things that I want to understand in terms of practicality as someone in the industry, do you need an agent to actually assist you to get
Jobs.
around, or do you just need to have good contacts so that you can be able to get your jobs and stuff?
So I've been in the industry as a makeup artist for 10 years now, and in the 10 years of being in the industry, I had an agent for 2 years,
Okay.
and it really didn't do much for me. I was still booking all of my own jobs. I probably about 2 or 3.
So what does she do when you say I book my job? Does she get 10%?
Yeah, that's how it works. But when I
Hey.
started to design, then she was like, okay, hang on, you got this job, you're designing, so just go direct. And if you need any assistance, admin-wise, then we're here for you. So that was great. And then eventually she was like, listen, babes, you don't need us. You should just continue on your own. You don't need
Well,
us.
that's honest to you.
Yeah, which is, no, I was really mad when she did that because I was like, I don't like doing the admin part, I don't like the negotiations, but it taught me. Because then I
Forces
had
you.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I had
Yeah.
to, and now I'm like amazing at it. Now I can like make you a lot of money. I always say, if I get tired of doing makeup, I must be an agent.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I fight.
That's awesome.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens. Okay, can we talk about like a nice thorny, okay, not nice, but this thorny issue? I mean, that clicks situation.
Are we really doing it?
No, but like seriously, like how horrendous is 2020, that clicks advert. 2020.
I think for me it goes back to what I said earlier on about standards of beauty in our world.
It's so fucked up though.
and how we still have to struggle with being who we are and as black people,
Yeah.
and within the whitewashed industry. you
Yeah.
know. This is a big company that we're talking about, and it's not really about them, but it's everyday life. It's those people that are not in the public light, and they're experiencing the discrimination, within at work, whereby your manager feels like she can say something about your braids or your hair, how it is, and and everything else. It's the jabs, it's the little things that we need to be educated on. And that's
Well,
why
you
I
mean
feel-
other people need to be educated on.
Well,
Me too.
I think everyone else, because also it's the men. If we have to say so,
Yeah.
whereby they don't know to pick up the cues, the social cues, and know what to say and when to say it. So that's why we wanted to ask you, how do you feel about that happening in this day and age?
I think this time of quarantine all over the world has taught us like a lot, and I think the one thing, like if you've missed it, there's something really not right with you. But you said 2020, right? And I feel like this year has exposed racism on another level.
Yeah.
We've had the Black Lives Matter movements, and America sparked it. And I must say, I sat so sad when I was like, why are we not standing up now? This is literally like, if you've ever been afraid to stand up for racism, this is the time, because you've got the backing of the entire world. And yet this country just sat and people
It released
and people spoke
images.
more about their racism, and people expose themselves more, and like it's scary. It's wow, I can't even dive into that.
Yeah.
But the whole clique situation is just like good, because the racism is always there. It's there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of exposing, right? Every company, like how in America they started to push black businesses, and companies started to hire like black executives, and like there's a big movement happening there. It's small movements at this point, but for me it's like it doesn't matter. Even one thing changes, it leads towards bigger changes, and I just wish that this country could move a little faster, or like I wish the black people of this country could stand together better to fight, because there's this, I don't know, there's just like this thing of fear. If we fight, we lose work. If we fight, we'll lose this. If we fight, we'll lose that. But I think if we stand together and just fight all the time, we'll move forward and we'll grow, and we'll be in the spaces that we belong in. And take up those spaces.
And fighting actually means that have that conversation.
Yes.
Have that uncomfortable conversation about things, and it's not really just about.
It's like you're saying, people need to be taught. Like we need to learn. We need to learn how to not accept.
Exactly.
That's
actually a really, really powerful thing.
It happens so easily.
Yeah.
And what do? We're so shocked. We're just like, oh.
Yeah, there's elements of
that?
tolerating it.
Yes,
right?
exactly. We need to know, and be educated about what are the levels of abuse. And if you feel a certain way, like say to my team, for example, with sexual harassment, with racism, with discrimination, and any sort of thing, I'm like, if you feel weird about it, or if you feel uncomfortable, or if you feel hurt or whatever, it's discrimination. It's enough for you to have to say no, or speak to someone who's going to stand up for you. But gosh, we just need to understand when it's happening, because I feel like people don't understand when it's happening. They like play it down. You're just like, no, maybe she made a mistake, or maybe she's not thinking about this. But no, like call it out. Like if you say my name wrong, I'm gonna call you out, and I'm gonna fix you right now. I'm gonna be like, Loa. Say it.
Not Babalwa.
Yes, don't.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens.
That was so
absolutely.
nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
So, what is next for you? What is your next big thing?
Well,
Yeah.
You getting married?
no.
Oh, sorry.
We did done that. So the next step is actually something I'm super proud of. Like, it took me a couple of weeks to even believe that it was real. But it's my biggest project in my career so far. And it's untitled now. At this point, it's called the Untitled Alicia Keys Project.
Yeah.
Now that's what we're talking about. Right here on Chatty Queens. That's where you first heard it
This is where you heard it. Yeah. So Untitled.
Yeah, yes, it's untitled at this point. They still gonna untitle it. But it's a feature. Yeah, it's a feature. That's gonna be shot in Mauritius.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So in 2 weeks' time, I'm leaving y'all. In this little
Congrats, and that's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still pinching myself.
That's
That is
so
so
exciting. Yeah. Oh
Well,
wow.
we know you're gonna kill it.
Thank
And
you.
then
very
you
much.
come back and then give us more response.
Yes, so this means you need to come back because we need to talk just about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely. That
We shall
sounds
talk about it.
amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. Our show is you've really created a spark.
Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah.
we could go on. This is so
Yeah.
wonderful.
We could go
Thank you
on.
so much for being here. Yeah, no, we totally, I mean,
Yeah. We have a Magunya to take home.
yes, he's like shoving La Magriña.
No, it's
Like,
just
I know.
nice.
Eat.
I will. I need to. I haven't actually like eaten most of the day. I haven't had time.
Yeah.
Was it? Wait,
Did you have a production before now?
Yes. So I landed like literally. I landed at the airport and drove here.
Uh-huh.
I just came.
How lucky are we though?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was busy with a mini series that's going to be on Netflix at the end of the year sometime. It's called A Christmas Wedding.
This girl. Right? It's like she's flexing in a very nice way. Like, there's some keys in.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a few weeks. And Netflix. Oh, yeah, Mauritius. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So what? You it's a Netflix show. It's not. It's you. This is the one that you say that you're not sure if you want to talk about it. Or?
No. I can't give the details of it.
Okay.
But I can definitely say it's a Christmas special, which
Okay.
which makes me very excited because we've never done that in this country before.
Yeah.
You know, like over the Christmas period, you've got all these films coming up from all over
Right.
the world and series.
That have snow and you're like,
Yeah.
whatever.
And how
It's
we're
hot
gonna have
outside.
Color. We're gonna have like some African culture. In its like biggest form, like unapologetic.
That sounds
Right,
amazing. That
that's
sounds
amazing.
exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. This has been such a fabulous conversation.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll have my kunya now.
Yeah.
Now we can chew. Yeah.
I'm full. Yeah.
Yes, don't forget me.
Okay. I'll top you, darling.
My partner, I really
No
enjoyed
joke.
this one actually.
Yeah.
Is it?
Don't
Okay.
mind.
Chatty Queens.
Chatty Queens.
Sick.